मुलाकात हुई है चीन के एक पत्रकार से जो कि यहाँ पॉलिटिकल एनालिस्ट भी हैं सीन स्वे, तो उनसे बात करते हैं। मिस्टर स्वे, थैंक यू सो मच फॉर टॉकिंग टू अस।
Thank you for having me here.
So first of all, please tell me that you must have noticed about the meeting between Indian Prime Minister and Chinese President. So what you have gathered and what is your opinion about this meeting?
Okay, so I think right now we have seen so many media, their coverage, they are focusing on this meeting. Why? It is because very important. That is the first visit by Indian Prime Minister Modi in 7 years to China, and of course he's coming to attending the SCO Summit, the largest ever in its over 2 decades history. So I think one important issue is the two leaders, they have the strategic dialogue, and that means we could have more talks at other levels, at ministry levels. And so actually before the Indian Prime Minister's visit to China for this SCO Summit, Chinese in earlier the Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi's visit to India and meetings with the Prime Minister and also the External Minister and also the National Security Chief, actually both have agreed that we need to reset the bilateral relations, and also for the specific issue like to resume the direct flights and also about the facilitations of the visa issues. So I think those have give us a very good momentum to reset the bilateral relations and improve the relations and the cooperations in many fields.
During the meeting between both leaders, the Chinese president has spoken about the multipolar world and something about the new world order. So what is your opinion about that?
I think for the world order, what China has said, and also for the SCO members, they have support is the UN-centered international order. That is the only world order in today's world. It's not the hegemony by some superpowers, or it's not kind of a system that have the bullies, the strong bullies, the weak. That is not the reality, and that should not be the reality of the international arena. And so that's why for China and other leaders, and also for India, we have called the unity to against this kind of bully. And this year is the 80th anniversary of the founding of the United Nations, and for this SCO Tianjin Summit, the leaders of the SCO will also issue an announcement to commemorate this important event, especially when we face a lot of challenges in today's world.
So I had the privilege to visit Russia many times while covering this Russia-Ukraine war, and most of the time the Russian people or the Russian government were speaking about that the so-called Western hegemony led by United States. Now you are mentioning, or the Chinese sides are also speaking like the similar words like the Russians were speaking. So do you think that such kind of convergence between Russia and China will help to make a good relationship between India and China?
I think I would like to make some corrections. Like the wording we are talking about is both China and a lot of countries, they are opposing this kind of hegemony, because the founding principles of the United Nations is to respect your territorial and territorial integrity and sovereignty, and non-interference policy, and also to have a mutual respect on all these issues, and so to preserve peace. So because the hegemony doesn't bring too much positive issues in today's world, we have seen so many conflicts in today's world, and that is not that stable, and that has also posed a lot of security risk, and also the refugees, the crisis. So all these issues shall be tackled. So for today's world, what we need is unity, and that's why all these leaders, also for the United Nations Secretary General Guterres, they are attending this the largest ever SCO Summit here in Tianjin. We need to have a call, and we need to cherish the founding principles of SCO to have this kind of mutual respect and to preserve this peace, and which is very vulnerable right now.
So since you are a political analyst also, so like how do you see India and then India's approach about the multipolar world?
I think for the multipolar world, that is a trend. Even for the U.S. administration, for this Trump administration, for this the State Secretary, and they also admit that the U.S. Unipolar hegemony has gone. It's the multipolar world. Actually, that is reflecting the reality. And you see with the Trump's, the U.S. administration's bully against the other countries, more countries are pursuing this like regional integration are accelerated, and regional organizations, they are finding more concrete solutions to the regional security, development, and peace, and also for the adaptation to the new technology like AI. So that's why you see for the SCO is expanding with more partners, with more members, and more dialogue partners, and also observer countries. And also for this year's SCO Summit, we have the SCO Plus meetings with other countries. So for example, we can have more direct talk among different organizations.
So you must have noticed about the U.S. President's obsession or the frustration related to the tariff issues, whether it is related to China, whether it is related to India. Against India, he has imposed 50% tariff. So what kind of discussions are going on in China related to this Trump tariff?
Actually, I have been following about the tariff conflicts launched by the U.S. For quite a long time already, even in the Trump 1.0 periods. A few weeks ago, I have the privilege to talk with the chief editor of the foreign policy in the U.S., and we discussed that the U.S. believe the current system is not in favor of the U.S., but actually they have already benefited from this for decades and have huge profits. But they want to use this kind of bilateral bully with the tariff, with this kind of issue as a bargaining chip to establish a new system. But that will cause the collapse of the current system. And now we are struck into kind of the middle. So that is not that stable. And we know the old system, they have some problems. So we need to improve that. But the new system, it's maybe not that good because now we have see a huge, strong counterbalance from other countries. So for example, U.S. has imposed over 50% of tariff to India and also to ask India forcibly to open its sensitive markets like agriculture and other sectors and to agree on some terms. So I don't think that is how the world should go. I have power, I have the strength, I can bully everyone, and you must listen to our advice, or you need to accept our term. That is not how the world should go, and we still need to go back to the UN-centered international order, which is mutual respect, and then we can find a solution that it benefits for both of sides.
And now my last question is that. What do you think about that, whether you expect that the border issue between India and China will be resolved soon? Because that is the point, because to convert India-China relationship in a new different paradigm.
Okay, for the border issue, we know it's a very complicated issue, but both sides have the willingness after Chinese foreign minister's visit to India, and they have reached some consensus on this issue, and also to have this kind of mechanism for this visit for the border issue. So I think that is a positive sign. But from China's side, I think China has regarded this border issue as one part of the bilateral cooperation, bilateral relations. But for Indian side, you consider it as a whole picture, but that would block other communications channels. So I think both sides could mitigate the negative part caused by the border disputes or something, and to have this kind of management. And I think talk is always better on this issue, and China has solved all its border issues with all its other neighbors except India, and I think both sides have the willingness and the determination to solve this issue.
Thank you so much for talking to TV9, and it was a pleasure talking to you, and let's hope that the both countries will be able to resolve the border issue also very quickly, so that the dream about the multipolar world will be realized. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me here.
Thank you. तो इस वक्त आप चीन के पत्रकार से सुन रहे थे कि भारत चीन संबंधों को लेकर और ख़ास करके अमेरिका की जो एक धमकाने वाली नीति है उसके खिलाफ इनका क्या कहना है। कैमरामैन गंगा सिंह के साथ मनीष झा, TV9 तियानजिन, चीन।